The Bishop's Candlesticks, a play in one act by Norman Mackinell. About the author, Norman Mackinell was a Scottish stage and film actor and playwright. He was active from the 1890s until his death. He appeared in many stage roles in the UK and overseas, as well as featuring in a number of films, the best known of which is Alfred Hitchcock's 1927 production Downhill. The characters: Bishop, the convict; Persome, the bishop's sister; Mary, sergeant. Let's know about the characters. The bishop, who is a noble, kind-hearted soul and a true Christian, who has always been ready to sacrifice everything to help the needy people. Persome is bishop's sister, widow, selfish and very worldly-minded woman. Mary, who is the maid servant of the bishop. She is well-behaved girl and revered the bishop quite sincerely. Convict, who is very rude, suspicious, and full of fear. He was not a criminal by birth. Circumstances made him hard-hearted criminal. Sergeant, a sub-inspector of French police party, respected the bishop a lot. About the play. The Bishop's Candlesticks is a thoughtful play which is an adaptation of a section of Victor Hugo's Les Miserables. It plays a remarkable role because the main course of actions are centered around it. It is based on the theme that love and kindness can change a wicked person into a good human being. Now let's begin the play. The opening of the play. The play opens in the kitchen of Bishop's cottage. On the mantelpiece, there are two very handsome candlesticks. Mary, the maid, who is stirring some soup in the kitchen. Persome, the bishop's sister, is laying cloth on the table. Persome rebukes Mary as she has not tended the fire properly and the soup is not ready yet. Now, Persome, who is very much anxious about her brother. Persome is worried for her brother as it's already 11 o'clock. Bishop has not returned yet. She asks Mary if there is any message. Mary tells her that the bishop has gone to see her ailing mother. Persome scolds her for troubling her brother. Mary doesn't mind for scolding. Persome orders her to put the silver cellars on the table. Mary says that the bishop has sold the silver cellars to pay the house rent of her mother, Gringoya. She was being troubled by the landlord's agent. Persome curses the old lady. Persome wonders what would happen to her brother if he has already sold many of his belongings to help others. Now, Persome's love and care for her brother. Bishop enters. He says that it's cold outside. Persome helps him off his coat. He tells Mary that her mother is feeling better now. When Mary leaves the house, the bishop gives his comforter to her, says it will keep her warm. Persome is angry with the bishop. She rebukes him for giving everything in charity to the people. She advises him to bother about his own welfare. The bishop tells that there is so much suffering and sorrow in the world and he can do so little. Persome says in anger that one day he would sell the candlesticks also. But the bishop says that he would never sell them as they are the symbol of love of his mother. Although Persome disapproves of her brother's kindness, yet she loves him so much that she is willing to excuse him. She makes him sit at the table and finish the soup. She locks the cupboard. While going to bed, she tells him to bless her. She also makes him promise that he will not stay up late. The bishop blesses her, and after she leaves, he settles down to read. A convict who enters the bishop's room stealthily. A convict enters his room stealthily. It's not difficult for anyone to enter the bishop's house as its doors and the windows are never shut. He seizes the bishop from behind and demands food at the point of a long knife. He threatens to kill him if he raises an alarm. The bishop treats the convict as if he were his guest. He calls him son and tries to calm him down. He tells the convict that he will certainly give him food. He offers to give food to the convict by getting the keys of the cupboard from his sister. The convict thinks that the bishop is trying to play a trick and he would wake everybody in the house. The bishop assures him that he and his sister are alone in the house, so he should not be afraid of anything. Later, due to anger, the convict is forced to trust him, but he warns the bishop if he tries to cheat him, he will stab him with a knife. The bishop calls his sister and tells her to unlock the cupboard so that he can give some food to the convict. Persome is scared to see the knife in the convict's hand as he looks like a wild beast. The bishop consoles her and takes the keys of the cupboard from her. Then he serves the convict cold pie, bottle of wine, and some bread. The convict eats voraciously as he has not eaten anything for the last 3 days. Convict, who is going to tell his life history to the bishop. After taking the food, the convict feels relaxed. The bishop remarks that the convict has suffered much. The convict agrees that he has suffered a lot. He recalls his days in the prison, which was nothing short of hell, and started talking about himself. He tells the bishop that there was a time when he was a man. He had a lovely wife and a home. His wife was ill and starving. He had no money and work at the time. He had no money and work at the time. He had to steal money to feed his sick wife, but he was caught and sentenced to 10-year imprisonment. When he told the jail officials that he stole because his wife was ill and he was without work, they laughed at him. On the very first night in the prison, he learned that his wife had died. He was desperate in the prison. He was given a number. He was chained like an animal. He was treated very badly. He was beaten mercilessly. He suffered there so much that he had forgotten almost everything, even his name also. Now he was not a man, he was a number 15729. Thus, ill treatment by jail authorities made him a beast. One day, they forgot to chain him and he escaped. After his escape from prison, he has been wandering from pillar to post. Nobody is ready to provide him food and shelter, so he began to steal again. Now, convict, who is going to steal the candlesticks. The bishop is deeply moved to hear the tragic story of the convict. He tells the convict that he has really suffered a lot, but there is a hope for all. He tells the convict to sleep on the bed as he is tired and no one will disturb him. The bishop goes inside to bring covering for him. When left alone, the convict goes to fire to warm himself and notices the candlesticks. He takes them down from the mantelpiece. He finds that they are quite heavy and made of pure silver. On hearing the bishop coming, he drops one candlestick in haste. The bishop is surprised to see the convict admiring the candlesticks. He tells him that he is proud of them and adds that they are a gift from his mother. They remind him of his mother, and he then tells the convict that bed is ready. He should retire for the night. The bishop treats him kindly. The convict is impressed. He tells the bishop that he is trying to change him into a good man, but he will not succeed in this. He also says that he has no faith in Christian virtues like faith, hope, charity. The bishop tells him that he is already late, so he should go to sleep and leaves the room. The convict talks to himself. The conflict between good and evil goes on in his heart. He knows that the candlesticks are a gift to the bishop from his mother. He wonders why he should care for his mother. Society never thought of his mother when he was sent to jail. When he makes his mind to take away the candlesticks, so he picks up the candlesticks, stores them in his coat, and finally he escapes. Now, how does Bishop's behavior changes and the convict becomes a good man? As the convict leaves, the door slams. The sound awakens Persome and she comes to see what it is. She calls her brother as soon as she realizes that the candlesticks are gone. Persome feels furious on this act of convict. She wants to call the police, but the bishop stops her from doing so. The bishop also regrets the loss of the candlesticks, but the bishop does not want the convict to be sent to the prison again. He thinks that it is a sin to be too much attached to the worldly things. Thus, their theft is just a punishment for him. Just then, someone knocks at the door and Sergeant enters with three policemen and the convict. Sergeant says that the convict was going along the road suspiciously. On searching him, they found the candlesticks with him. He remembered that the candlesticks belonged to the bishop, so they brought them to him. The bishop and the convict have been looking at each other. The convict looks at him defiantly. The bishop tells the police that the convict is a very good friend of him, and he himself had presented the convict with the candlesticks. The sergeant accepted this explanation with a bit of difficulty and goes out after releasing the convict. The convict feels sorry for this theft. He is surprised at the bishop's forgiving and loving behavior. From being a beast, he becomes a man. In jail, he had forgotten there was very good in the world. But on meeting the bishop, he saw goodness once again. He is so touched by the bishop's kindness that he begins to cry. He tells the bishop to bless him, and he is about to leave. The bishop gives him the candlesticks, saying that these might help him. He promises the bishop that he will lead a good life in the future. Thus, the bishop's conduct has taught him the lesson of love and kindness. So now we can say that the title of the play, The Bishop's Candlesticks, plays an very important role because the main course of the action are centered around it. The candlesticks revolves around the life of both the bishop and the convict. The bishop is a saintly figure. He is very generous to the poor and the suffering. He can sacrifice his own comfort for the good of others. The candlesticks are the last gift from his dying mother. They have great sentimental value for him. They remind him of his mother, so he does not want to sell the candlesticks. But when he sees that the convict has stolen his candlesticks, he feels very bad. However, he also thinks that he should not have been so much attached to them. He realizes that it's a sin to be too much attached to the worldly things. Their theft is just a punishment. For him, luckily, he gets his candlesticks back when the convict is caught by the police. He gives the candlesticks to the convict to start a new life. Therefore, he reveals that the bishop is very generous, very generous. He does not want to send he doesn't want to send the convict back to jail. The bishop's forgiving and loving behavior brings a drastic change in the convict's life. This has a great effect on the convict's heart. He becomes a changed man. He becomes a changed man now. He promises the bishop to lead a good life in the future. The bishop wins the heart of the convict by actually gifting the candlesticks to him. Thus, the title of the play is quite appropriate, as the drama is deeply associated with the emotions attached with the candlesticks. Dear friends, thank you so much. Kindly subscribe the channel. Stay connected. Happy learning.